What does effective coaching look like to you? What does it look like and feel like?
Well, I think it's very individualised. What is our job, if you like, as a coach, or our aim? I think to help people to be the best version of themselves, and of course, wrapped up in coaching, there's teams and there's individuals and groups within teams, but essentially we're there to get the best out of people. So what does that look and feel like? It can be a number of different things, really. You know, that it might be, we always think about the on the pitch and working with players and putting sessions on and educating them in how we want to play or technical skills. But it might be that you're working with a young person who is having a difficult time in their life, and you're just sitting having a cup of coffee with them and a chat. And I think it can be anywhere between those things as well. So for me, very varied, but with the key being, how do we get the best out of people?
What would you say your strengths are, and then what would you say you potentially borrow from the group of staff that you've got around you to help you build and create this environment for your players?
Well, I think I've got empathy for the players. You know, I've been a player for 15 years as a professional, really, or longer, 18 years. So I'd been through all the highs, the lows, the success, the being injured, being out of the team, and that means that although every player you work with is different, you've been through that pathway. So that's not to say that what worked for me is going to work for them, but I can understand how difficult that journey is. And the hardest thing in football is to go and play, and especially at professional level where you're playing in front of tens of thousands of people and millions are watching, and that creates pressure. So I was always observing not only what that meant for me, but the other players I played with. And I played with some, you know, we started at a smaller club where we had lots of guys who came through non-league football or through our academy, and also played with some incredible superstars within the game, and their world is totally different to other people's as well. So I could relate to those things, and I think that's probably something that my experiences that's given me a strength in those areas. But I'm not an expert in everything, and I'm a certain personality type, and you need a balance of those people, experiences, backgrounds, characters. That's part of bringing a team together, and otherwise you'll miss things. You won't necessarily be able to connect perfectly with every single player, or we might make decisions on what we're going to do as a team and forget something really that might seem straightforward to one of our staff. And having those different lenses on decisions and things that you're going to do, I think are more and more important. I think years ago there was a feeling everybody should be treated the same, and that's the best way to do it, because then everybody's equal and nobody, well, that actually doesn't get the best out of everybody, and it doesn't mean that everybody's happy. So I think we've got to recognise every individual comes to work. You want to be fulfilled in what you're doing, you want to be valued in what you're doing. So our staff are exactly the same as the players. They come to work to contribute, to be a part of a winning team, and we've got to make sure that they're as engaged as the players are.
What is it that you're still curious about, and where do you go to seek further development for yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, that can be anywhere. You know, my kids might be reading a book on something, and I start to look at it, and it might give me an insight into different cultures. So how do I bring different cultures together in our team? There might be something around tactical. So I'm fortunate to go to. We've got some of the best managers in the world, most experienced managers in the world in the Premier League. So there's a masterclass of tactics every week, and the big Champions League matches as well. So you're always looking at every phase of the game and what could we learn from how that team build up, or how they defend, or how they press, or what their set plays are. Then there's learnings about young people, and then there are learnings about leadership. I mix a lot with coaches from other sports, so I'm fortunate again in the role I'm in. It opens the doors to other national coaches or people that are coaching teams at a high level under pressure, so they can relate. You can learn, because learning's quite laddered, and it was no use me as a first year coach. For example, someone like Dave Brailsford, who's had unbelievable success with British cycling. When I was a young coach, I could have gone and learned a lot, but actually it was not as valuable, because what they were doing was so far ahead of the level I was working that I needed more steps along the journey. Now we're a team that are, in the semi-finals and finals of major events. He's been a coach that's won at the highest level, done things that have never been done in our country. So those little gaps that we might learn are really effective and really important learning. And I think it's important that you think about that when you're going to watch people work. You don't just have to go and watch the very best person in the world if you're a young coach, because actually what they're doing and what the players they're working with are capable of is totally different. And there's steps to learning that you're not ready to take it all in. You can only take a certain amount in, and it's finding the right pieces at the right time. There's so much resource out there to learn and to improve ourselves, but making sure that it's the right level of learning for the level that you're currently at, and that you're not overwhelmed by things that seem light years away from what you know at that time, I think is really important. It's part of our own confidence as coaches. I think we should always be looking to learn and improve, but also don't judge yourself against somebody that's been doing it for 30 years who should be operating at a better level. I think sometimes we focus on what players can't do too much, and maybe we can make them even better at some of the things they're really good at, and that might actually help them more. So it's a bit like, I don't know what was your favourite subject at school, girls?
I'd definitely say probably PE, but other than that, probably English.
And what was your worst? The one you liked?
Yeah.
Right.
Not good for me.
And were you any good at maths?
Not really.
So probably better than me, but so we could have spent months on your maths, and you might not have ever got to be a professor of maths at Oxford. But if we kept investing in coaching and PE, which you loved, and now that's a huge part of your life and what you do. And I think that's the analogy I would give, that if somebody's a really good crosser of the ball, for example, and we can make them a great crosser of the ball, that might be worth spending more time than trying to get them to do something. So I played with a player who was a centre forward who loved to run in behind defences. Speed was his thing, and I remember a coach working with him on, can you come and hold the ball up better? And it was never going to work, because that wasn't what he was good at, and he got his goals running in behind, and that stuck with me. I remember thinking as a player, that's probably not going to work now, and at this moment in time it's probably not what he needs, and it might have confused him even more. So I think they're good things for coaches to think about, really. I don't think parents will realise how much pressure they put on kids, and I've done it myself. I remember coaching my son's team, and I was like, we're here to win now, and it's like, are we really? Because actually half of them are chasing a dog around the tree, we're training. I've got this session set up, they're chasing a dog, they want a hot dog at the end, or they want a hot chocolate, or whatever it is. They're there to have fun, they're there to be with their mates. The football from time to time will be really important, If they're at an academy, it's a little bit more serious, of course, because they're in and they're learning. But most grassroots teams, it's about a group of mates coming together. And I know my son's team, there's probably 7-8 years since they all played, but if they see each other in town now, they've got that connection of, do you remember when we did this, and do you remember those games, and so it's a little club that they're part of. That's more important for grassroots football. We're helping them develop as people, we're having fun, we're getting them out of the house at the weekend, and if they can enjoy their football and improve and learn, then great, but they won't all be wired that way. They've had a long week at school, a lot of homework, who knows what's going on at home for them, and our job's to try and create an environment that they enjoy. That's the most important thing.
How important are relationships to you, and how did you go about building those relationships over the period of time you've been in?
Well, relationships take time, and we're fortunate in that some of the players we're working with, we've known them since they were, we've worked with them since they were in the under-21s with us, so that's a period of 7-8 years. Nearly all of them we've known since they were quite young, so we've seen them develop and grow, and it's been brilliant to watch that happen in their own lives. They've become fathers, they've become stars, and so we've enjoyed watching that journey as well. But how do we build those things? We talk. It's as simple as that. I enjoy sitting, chatting, have a cup of coffee, have a wander around the training ground. Some lads don't want to sit like we are, but I'll just chat with them as we're coming off the training pitch and find out how things are going, and I'm curious about what's going on in their lives, because often that can also help us to coach them better and to find out what motivates them and to find out what might be worrying them and how we can relieve that pressure.
If we were to come into a Gareth Southgate training session, what would we hear, see and feel? Like what would that environment look like?
Well, I hope it would be enjoyable and focused in equal measure. So, we would talk a lot about the week needing to be one where people are relaxed, they can be themselves, and equally when we're focusing on something specific to the game, we want total concentration and total focus, because what we do on a match day is going to be a transfer from what we do every day on the training pitch. So the detail's got to be right. It's not just a jolly. We're here with a responsibility to represent the badge, represent our country, and we want to win. And so how do we give ourselves the best chances of winning? And equally, I think if the environment is one that people feel they can be themselves and enjoy, then we've got a better chance of getting the very best out of them. And that's what I hope you'd experience, really. So we've got to have certain accepted ways of working, and within that allow the individual to be themselves. So, for example, if we're travelling to a game, we've all got to wear the same top. But am I going to lose my marbles if one of them's got an earring or something like that? Not really. Whereas when I played, it was no jewellery, no whatever. That might be really important to somebody. That statement of their individuality might be the thing that makes them feel good going into a game. For somebody, it might be the music they're listening to, so I don't worry too much about things that maybe years ago would have been expected standards, because whose view was that? Like me as a 50-year-old bloke, or somebody that's a bit more in touch with the group of people. So we've got to have standards. We can't have a free-for-all, but I think there's got to be some flexibility within that to allow the individual to express themselves and to feel, I can play here. if you feel comfortable off the pitch, then I think you've got a chance going on the pitch. I think if off the pitch feels restricted and I can't be myself, how are we going to go on the pitch? You know, what we're going to say, oh, go on the pitch and relax. Yeah, good luck with that. You know, the whole week's been nerve-wracking. So again, that's how I like to work. It might, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's how I like it to be.
And I think in terms of that, you spoke about, especially sort of off the pitch, those unique qualities, and you're having a standards in which you sort of work towards, but then there's some flexibility within that. How do you get that on the pitch? So you've got a game plan, you've got strategy, you know how you want to work, but how do you get the individuals within that to be free to make their own decisions and work out the problems that are occurring in front of them?
Yeah, well, I think it's helpful that the team have to have a structure, because if everybody is doing their own thing, then we've got chaos. And I don't know if when you're going to pass it to me or where you're going to pass it to me. You don't know where I'm going to run. So there's got to be a framework, and then I think that allows the individual qualities to come out. So how do we get the players that we want in certain areas of the pitch into those areas of the pitch where they then can go and do things that we can only dream of?